That's the audio. The little lizards lobbed lollipops laughingly at the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh, wow. Welcome to the Buff Show. This is an episode I've been dreaming about doing for a while. We are stealing Paden Fairbanks.
It's been a whole thing. He said, Paden, if you don't come to the podcast, we're going to kick you out of Mountain Buff, and we want you to understand you're a coward if you don't as well. And I was pretty scared.
So we got, what did you say earlier today? We got Paden squared.
Yeah, we got... I can't say the jokes that I want to say. But
so yes, there are two Paden realtors in Utah.
Only two that are spelled
that
our
I
way.
know of.
Yeah, there's only...
You haven't met any other ones?
Well, because the Utah MLS only has... Every time I type
true.
in Paden, there's three accounts.
You're in there twice, though.
Yeah, for Idaho, for Utah,
yeah, that's
and then
not
you.
fair. So he just thought he could just go get licensed in other states and two-up me.
I was sitting at my computer and I said, hey, Paden, how do I make it so that I'm known as the best Paden real estate agent in the land? And I said, Idaho agent, so I've got it twice. He's only got once. I'm a better person.
And I was talking to my dad today, and he's like, I'm looking at 800 acres in Idaho. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to talk to the other Paden. He was disappointed. So I might have like a $2 million referral coming your way. So,
Jeez Louise.
Anyways, no, I'm excited. So Paden Fairbanks and his wife.
Let's take 1 second stop. He's talking about a $2 million referral. There's been a moment in time where I lived in a mobile home with expansions on it, and that's the way that we were raised. And so even being in the realm of people talking about like 1.5 or somebody's talking about getting a $6.5 million listing today is wild. So let's keep going, but I just wanted to...
I lived in a trailer for a minute, and I lived in it wasn't a mobile home, but it was a manufactured home.
Yeah.
Was yours a manufactured?
No, ours was a mobile. I don't know.
Did you ever live in a trailer though?
So I think that it technically was a trailer, and they put additions on it over time. It wasn't worth anything.
Ours was like a camping trailer.
So ours was like a mobile home.
Yeah,
it would have been in a mobile home park.
So I had a rougher childhood than
I think you're coming at me a little disrespectful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. One time, my dad he sold his house we were living in. And he's like, we're going to build on this other lot. And the solution was living in a trailer in the field for a summer. I remember walking home from school into the trailer. Mom, I'm home. Like, it was kind of weird.
In Eden?
No.
Where'd you grow up?
This was in Pleasant View.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. So,
and you just lived in there just for a summer?
It was for, like 6 months. Like, it was through a summer. I can't remember exactly how long. It was a minute, though.
How many kids were in there?
Just me.
How
I was
old were
only
you?
child for 9 years.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, this podcast about you though, so quit trying to steal the show. No, so we got Paden Fairbanks and his wife Bailey that just joined the team. We're super excited. Let's talk about where we met. It's like 3-4 years ago, probably.
I bet you 3.5 would be if I'm making a wild guesstimate.
3.5. I think you're right. I had a listing in Smithfield.
Yeah.
And I was hosting an open house, and you showed up with your clients. I was like, hey, I'm Paden. And you're like, I'm Paden. And we're like, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah, it's not a common. The bigger thing, too, is you meet a lot of Patens, but meeting a Paden.
Yeah.
And every one of them is named from the movie Silverado from, is it an 89 or something it came out?
Yeah, Kevin Costner.
Well, and I'm telling you, it was, for both of us, it was a moment of like, what the crap is going on?
Yeah.
Who is this person?
We almost had to do like a Western draw.
We
Right there.
did, yeah. Well, you got to think. You're like, is this guy messing with me? Is he looking at his thing wrong? But no. It was. I met the only other Paden in the state of Utah that day, which was wild.
Well, there's another one. There's more.
Another Paden real estate agent?
Oh, not Paden real estate agent. There's a Paden car salesman.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a Paden college student right now as well.
Oh,
there is. I do know of multiple Padens. Well, I know 3. You
know 3? That
other Paden, and me are all 3 Padens that I personally know.
Yeah, I know 3 too. Crazy. So, anyways, ever since then, we kept running into each other, and you kept attacking me and harassing me on social media about why you're the better real estate agent, Paden. And
It was meant to be disrespectful.
yeah. And then I was like, man, I just want more of this in my life. So I was like, you should come work over here. And after a long time of trying, we finally got you guys to jump ship. So it's been super. It's been it's been what, a couple weeks?
Yeah, a week and a half, maybe
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So, and today's January 17th, 2025. And yeah, we're just stoked. You guys are hustlers, rock stars. You did a lot of volume last year. What, 10 million?
10
in
million
volume?
between all 3 states, yeah.
And how many transactions?
22.
That's a lot. That's a busy year.
It was a whole thing for sure.
Yeah. So, walk us through like your journey. Why, I guess, what were you doing before real estate? Let's go back.
Well, I guess the easiest way, we'll do just a quick little recollection of Paden in college, graduating.
Yeah.
First job was for Prism View, PRISM, not Prison. And they were owned by Samsung and as an LED company.
Okay.
And I was an innovation coordinator. I was a training specialist there. And then some of the people were like, hey, we like this kid. And so I was an innovation coordinator for like 8 months of it. I worked there for about a year and a half, I want to say. So I graduated on Friday and I went to work on Monday.
Oh, wow.
I worked there for a year. I was kind of like a little whiny little baby boy who didn't really understand like the way that the world works. And so I quit my job and was like, I'm going to go figure out how to do this. And I went to Whitaker Construction. And I worked there for 2 years as a project engineer, project managed a couple of jobs. Felt like a big fancy boy because I was the project manager for like a $300,000 job or something like that. So I felt like a big cool guy.
Yeah.
But I was there for 2 years and I just hit a wall eventually where I was driving like 3 hours a day, hour and a half there, hour and a half back. Also, once again, still being a little bit of a whiny little boy. And I just decided, there's got to be something better than this. And I quit that job too. So I was there for 2 years, quit that job. And then lastly, I went to Ductworks and I was let me take one step back. I was the scheduler there for about 4 months. And I was really good at scheduling because I'm just super good at telling people what I think. And then I was a quality assurance manager there for about a year after that. And we got like AS9100D certified, which is basically so you can get aerospace equipment that you can build for the government kind of thing. It's a higher quality specification. And so I got into real estate about 6 months before I left that job with the pure idea of just being like, okay, let's get my license. Let's learn how to start flipping houses. Mom said that's how you look at the MLS. That's how you're going to get the best deals. And I said, okay. So I got my license at night and just took the test. And then I started working. I just posted on Facebook. I said, hey, I'm just new into real estate. I'm just trying to figure out which way to go. An old fraternity brother hit me up and was like, hey, I'm trying to buy a house. You're trying to sell a house. Let's work together. And so it was that first 6 months was just trying to get him into a house and learn the process. And I did get him into a house, and I had about another 4. At the time, I thought having a pipeline of like 8 people was a lot. I was like, oh my goodness, this is such a huge deal. It's not. If you have 8 people in your pipeline, it's not enough in real estate.
Right.
So I quit my job. There was that
With 8 people in your pipeline?
Yeah. Yeah. It was stupid. But that 6 months, the only hard thing about that 6 months was his house is here in Ogden. I was working in Logan. So I was working 40 or 50 hours at Ductworks, and then I was driving and work on real estate for about 30 hours a week. So there's like 6 months I was working 80 hours a week on just stuff, which is standard. But yeah, I quit my job, super stupid. And my dad said, Paden, you're the only person I've ever met in my entire life that quit 3 good jobs, good career perspectives, good places you could go, like good solid jobs, because you didn't know what you wanted to do. And if we're going to go on the emotional piece of it, I was pretty worried for a little bit. But then I just stuck with real estate, super hard couple of years, super hard finding clients, super hard selling houses, super hard learning that you need to probably have like 100 people in your pipeline in some way, shape, or form to be able to sell 10 houses a year. And now we're here. That's the background of all of it.
Well, didn't you do it to flip houses?
I did.
Did you flip any houses?
At the start, we did. We ended up flipping houses. I guess that's the other small piece of the story. The reason
So you're not a very good house flipper.
I'm not. So we had more. House flipping is very hard.
Yeah.
To be very clear, and it's not that we're even good or bad at it, but you need to be getting houses at larger deals than we were getting. Like we profited, 10,000, 20, like tens of thousands of dollars, but we were putting in a lot of work.
Well, that's not great considering the risk
Terrible.
and overhead.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
we were. You know what? I
one
think you're
small
right. We
hiccup.
were not good house flippers. Yeah. But the reason I originally was doing the house flipping, but the working with clients
Yeah.
and being able to work as hard as I wanted to without being worried about anybody else telling me no matter what, if you have a job, your boss is going to tell you if you're working too hard that you're working too hard.
Yeah.
And if you're doing stuff that even if you think it's right, if your boss doesn't think it's right, then you just don't do it.
Right.
And that's where real estate stuck with me was I was just able to work. Nobody's getting in my way. Nobody was saying nothing. I was able to make mistakes and I was able to work. I was able to talk to people every day, which I love doing. Like that first year, I have 500 people in my database, 450 people in my database. But that first year, the first 100 was I was going to dinner with a bunch of them. I was sending handwritten notes every single day. It was a lot different kind of work than that, but I really liked that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what attracted me to stay into real estate was just the fact that I was pretty good at talking to people and I was pretty good at learning the process of real estate and explaining it to people.
Yeah. And I haven't seen, I mean, I know a lot of agents, but you've done exceptionally well with just building those relationships and taking care of people, which you don't see all the time. Like that's kind of my background too, is like the handwritten notes and going out to dinner and just like working hard for your clients, and it's pretty fulfilling when you jump into it. So that's awesome. What's your goals moving forward?
So originally we were wanting to get into more house flip and more rentals, and I do think those are still part of our goals. But me and Bailey's entire plan right now is how do we sell as many houses at a really good quality standard as possible right now? Because if we can just focus on that, I mean, the goals, we sold 22 houses last year. We really want to try to get to 40 houses this year. And then that might make it so that we can use whatever money we make from it, take that as anybody will, to be able to create a life of simplicity and comfortability that then we can service more people in a way that we don't have to worry about money anymore.
Yeah.
We want to do real estate in a way that makes us some of the best real estate agents in the state.
Yeah.
Maybe in the country someday, but that's a big one.
Yeah.
So we'll just stick with Utah right now.
So we're competing for number one.
Yeah, we always have been.
Oh, I love it. What's your process going to look like when you get a client working with them? Like, what's kind of your signature traits? I noticed a video you posted. You have a lot of clients on your shoulders at closings.
Yeah.
Is that like a requisite for clients?
I like to bring it up to people as long as they're able to. We've had a couple of, let's say 65-year-old women who are not going to get on my shoulders.
Yeah.
But anybody else, I always ask them. I mean, I've asked engineers with Northrop Grumman. I've asked accountants and typically they say yes. So I wouldn't say it's a prereq, but I would say that I always ask for sure.
Is that just like a power move to show how strong you are and like how you're built like an ox?
So the first person that did it was Brian, who is my fourth sale. And I remember we just sold, it was a $675,000 house. It was the biggest house I'd sold at the time. It was the biggest house I sold for 2 years. And so we were just both just super excited.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was me or him that brought it up, but it was just like, I mean, how do we get the funniest picture possible? How do we get the most personal picture possible in the easiest way? We can't go buy a bunch of stuff. And he just hopped on my shoulders, and it's just been, and ever since then, if I can get him on my shoulders, I will.
Have there been clients you haven't been able to have been a struggle?
No.
A big, beefy 300-pound guy?
I've never. So maybe I should have asked Cordell to get on my shoulders. He might have been, but everybody probably weighs. I think everybody I've gotten on my shoulders have been 220 pounds or less.
Oh wow!
And I can squat, I don't know, like 300 or something. So it's
that's
not
like your gym routine every day. You just go there
I'm
squatting for the closings.
Putting pictures of my clients on the wall and saying, "Okay, how are we? Hey, what is your weight?" And
No. Oh, I love it. No, dude. I've been impressed. You seem to have a very personal approach. Like even coming on, you're like, "Hey, can I use a dump trailer?" And you're taking dump trailers to drop it off at people's houses, helping them move. Like there's not very many people like willing to go through that process with people.
Well, and your philosophy as a real estate agent, my philosophy has always tried to be how can you help people in the simplest ways possible that maybe even if they do take us a little bit extra time to do it,
Yeah.
but it hopefully the amount of work that we put in it is double the amount of work that they don't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So even dropping off boxes with clients, that's $100, $110 for us. We're dropping off 40 boxes at their house. But for them, they don't need to go buy tape. They don't need to go buy boxes. We give them a big old thing of bubble wrap. It just takes that off their table and their thought process. They need to get packed, and this is a way that I can help
Have you done that for every client?
We do it for, every
of
listing we do.
Yeah.
It's part of our, but it's that and the dump trailer. Like, once again, me taking a load to the dump trailer and recording a dumb YouTube video takes me a total of an hour and 15 minutes driving there, picking it up, going to the dump, dropping it back off at your house or whatever. But for them, the amount of work that they save not having to do that is got to be a day's worth of work, probably, you'd imagine. So let's say 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, that's always our thought process is how do we get ahead of making it so that you're not as stressed as possible?
Yeah.
We can do better. We're still going to keep doing better, but that's always the thought process.
I had a guy tell me, this was years ago, probably when I first got into real estate. It's been at least 8-9 years ago. And he's like, Paden, you know what's wrong with real estate agents? I'm like, what? He's like, they take a process that's extremely emotional, stressful, and it's just like another day for them. Like they desensitize it, and I think we need to do that to some degree. But a lot of agents, I think they forget the process of moving, the roller coaster, everything. And I've been reminded that because we just moved like 2 months ago, and the process of getting everything packed up, still having to like carry on with normal life, 4 kids. And we weren't even moving that far. It was like a quarter mile down the street, but like it was stressful. And it put it back into perspective where I'm like, oh man, like it's a big deal. Like where you live, that home base is everything for people. And we're a big part of that. But I think for a lot of agents, it just becomes their norm and they forget how big of a deal it is for people. And I think you do a good job of remembering that it is a big deal.
When we have the same problem though, and that's why it's always you always do just try to keep perspective that when people are moving, it's hard to even cook dinner sometimes. So I agree with you. It's but it's hard as a real estate agent, like 22 transactions, which isn't even the most transactions a year. But after you do 15 in a year, your mind it does go numb after a while. And it's just something you always got to keep sharpening.
And I think we do have to remind people like, hey, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like we can get past this because like little things become big things in the transactions and people overreact. And sometimes I wish I just did commercial real estate because it's like way less emotion and more just about the numbers and stuff like that. How do you help with that? It seems like you're a decent psychologist.
Well, and I don't know about that.
Marriage counseling.
Yeah, well, you'd be for sure. As real estate agents, we deal with people with all sorts of situations, but I always just try to boil it down to, and my perspective on stuff is, what is your worst case scenario, what is your best case scenario, and what's the risk look like? Mm-hmm. So let's say even hypothetically, we're negotiating over a $250 satellite or so, $250 TV, let's say. And the thought process for my sellers or buyers or whatever, they typically go to, these people are doing wrong by us. These people are whatever us. They're doing something against us. And it's always just great to remind people everybody's just living their own life. And to them, they might be thinking the exact same thing about you. And so take the entire account into your mind and say, is a $250 TV worth breaking up a deal of a house that functionally works well for you, a mortgage that's manageable, that you don't have to worry about.
Isn't it a weird industry that we're in? Because I feel like the average consumer thinks that homes, there's like a finite, like a definite value. Like this home is worth $563,251. So like whatever, like seems like it comes down to that. But what's your thought on that?
You're constantly reminding people that all it is a buyers and sellers market. If the value of your house is the value of how many people want to buy it and what's the price that they're willing to pay for it. So I agree with you. It's not that we're guesstimating, but there's a huge piece of it that in January your home's value could have very well went down by $5,000 just because there's less people looking at the market. That's why it's the best. The best time is to try to sell in the spring or when school's out because you have the most people that can buy and sell houses.
Yeah.
I don't know. Real estate's an impossible.
It's so hard. And that's where having a professional really comes in handy because the right staging, the right marketing, the right strategy when you list, like open houses, get all the marketing and everything. There is a formula to really maximizing your sales price and getting as much as you can. Because even appraisers and lenders, they're not is this fiberglass insulation or is it blown in foam insulation, or is the electrical wire in here the 12-2 or the 14-2? They don't look at that. Or are these cans in the ceilings, or are they just the puck lights? But the more that you can explain and present it, it's more of a feel. And that's what we really try to do with our marketing is create that oh wow, this presents really nice. It's got to be worth $1 million, right?
Yeah. Well, but that's the other. There's those physical aspects of selling a house that a real estate agent just understands if they're selling more than 10 houses a year. But the other aspect is that there are hopefully somebody in your corner that if you didn't have a real estate agent in your corner and you've had your house on the market for 6 months and you get an offer that's $100,000 below what its price is, and you're just whatever, I just want to be done. A real estate agent there is hopefully there to just say, big breath in, big breath out. If you wanted to sell your home for cheaper, then lower your price by $40,000, and maybe you'll make $60,000 than what that offer is.
Yeah,
and you don't think jump. That.
Yeah. Which I've had a number of sellers that will be listed. We'll just say $500,000, and I'll be like, hey, we should probably drop the price to $490 and do an open house and reamp our marketing on this. And they're like, no. And then we'll get an offer for $425, and they'll be like, let's counter them at $430. And I'm like, what? That's $70,000 from where we are. We should drop the price, and because we could likely find somebody closer to $450, like you said. There was another story I just had, and I won't share all the details, but I had a buyer on a property, and it's kind of off market, good price that I thought. It was kind of a unique property. And timing and everything didn't quite work out to where he could buy it. So they ended up backing out. I was like, this is a good deal. I feel like it's a good deal. I think you should, at any way possible, try to pull this off. Because if this goes to market, it could likely list for 100 to 150 higher. They end up not doing it. Doesn't even go back to market, just word of mouth. We get 3 other offers on it, ends up going for $150,000 more. And it's just crazy. And I'm like, man, what could have I done with that piece had we just listed it on the MLS, the right marketing, collected offers, So I guess what I'm saying is, even having sold hundreds of homes up to this point, I still don't know exactly what's going to happen. And it seems like some of the houses that you're like, oh, this will go in 2 seconds, those ones can take a minute. Some of the ones that you're like, this is going to be harder, you get an offer the first day. It's just there's some luck involved too. And it seems like there's a lot of good karma too, that some people you're like, man, you're lucky, you live a good life. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Tell us about your family, and we haven't talked about your cute little girl.
We got a 9-month little girl named Camille. We had her 9 months ago.
Yeah.
But Bailey, we've been married 2.5 years now, going into this summer. So this summer will be 3 years, which is just wild. I don't know if you've been married longer than I have.
Yeah.
Every year you're just like, oh wow, I've been married that long.
Yeah.
Bailey's doing real estate as well. She does a lot of the marketing and all of that stuff. Camille's just the cute patrol for making sure that she's the cute person in it naturally.
You guys are a good team too. It seems like you balance it really well. You do family stuff, they'll come work with you and stuff.
Well, and that's a huge reason we like real estate so much, and all of our clients as well, is that having Camille there doesn't scare anybody.
Yeah.
And for us, we want Camille there.
That's probably the only reason you sold more homes this year.
I have no doubt that is the reason. Yeah.
They just want to see your cute little baby.
She is adorable. She's got a huge head of hair, which is just wild to see. But
no, that's awesome. So what are your goals moving forward? Like, where do you see yourself, a couple years down the road?
Ooh, our entire thought process is being more efficient at our systems and doing a better job as real estate agents. So we're trying to get to selling. We sold $10 million. We're really trying to get to selling $30 million in a year. Is a huge goal of ours. But also on top of that, we're trying to improve our systems to make it so that our sellers have a better experience selling through us and have weekly updates, have more information, have more ability to be supported in the things that they're doing, and that our buyers are the same thing. We've got more systems showing them, what day is garbage day, what do these systems actually look like, being able to put them ahead of due diligence kind of items, just give them the information that they need.
Yeah.
We're not contractors. I'm not going to give a contractor advice, but hopefully I can say, hey, here's something to be aware of. You should go talk to a contractor about this. So that's our big goals right now. We want to improve our systems more. We want to do a better job for our buyers and sellers, and then we just want to be able to work with buyers and sellers that want to work with us more.
Yeah,
is another huge goal. What was Bailey's gonna, if she's watching this, our mission statement was, we want to provide above exceptional service in an aggressively honest way, and that's what we want our focus to be. Hopefully for more than 2 years.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Like above exceptional service, but. Yeah, explain that a little bit more.
So the above exceptional service is purely just focused on making your buying and selling experience better. Trailers, having more contacts and contractors that we can hire, that we can advise you to hire on the buyer side, being able to get information before you even think about it, just being better at our job. But being aggressively honest, as a salesperson, everybody tells me I'm a terrible salesperson because I am. And it's not that because I don't want to be a salesperson. Real estate is one of the only sales jobs where people are coming to you with a need that you don't need to sell them anything.
Yeah.
The goal is less to try to convince them to buy or sell a house and to only inform them on the options that they do have.
Yeah.
So being aggressively honest, I'm telling you all the time, I'm talking to buyers and sellers about the things that I have concerns about, the homes that we're doing tours of. And it's not that I'm trying to convince them to buy, or even, let's say I had a conversation with a seller last week, and they said, hey, Paden, we've got debt. We want to sell our house. We want to pay off all of our debt. And I immediately go to, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that if you are able to keep your job and you slowly pay off your debt, your home's going to be something that will hold value for you and forces you to have a savings account that'll make it so you're more financially comfortable in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you're a terrible salesman.
You have to, well, there's no reason for you to sell your house. 80% of the time, they don't listen to me, and they do those things.
Yeah.
But 100% of the time at the end of the transaction, people say, I never felt like what you were telling me was anything other than what you truly thought, and I always appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that's the aggressively honest piece of it is I don't want to tell you stuff with any other tactic than just saying what my thoughts are on a situation.
Yeah. No, I like that. Kind candor, kind of like just and looking out for what's best for them, right? And that's been a big thing for me too. Like I feel like there's so many agents out there, and in fact I heard of a story just this past week where an agent like had their commissions paid in advance, and then the deal blew up, and they're like, oh no, like that agent's gonna like try and push his needs on his clients, right? Whereas if you're just living a life where you're like, hey, like I don't need your house, I don't need this to go through. I'd love for it to sell, obviously, but like we just want what's best for you. I think that always comes back tenfold, because then your like their best interest is your best interest. And I mean, honestly, we're doing this so that we can close them, but their friends and families and parents, so that they send us referrals. And that's the biggest compliment we can get from people is like, hey, you did such a good job with us. Like, here's my brother or sister.
I trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is huge. And I think you do a great job at that. So it's going to be.
Well, and that's I always tell clients too, if you're trying to hire an agent, I try to give them advice on it. And one of the biggest things I tell people is if you can see an agent, if you can somehow figure out an agent's finances, I'm not saying you need to know how much money they have in the bank account, but a desperate agent is somebody who's going to have subjective thoughts in their mind to try to convince you to do things that aren't in your best interest.
Yeah.
It's one of the largest problem with the real estate agent in general is that you've got so many people that need money trying to convince other people to spend money. And it just isn't. It's one of my least favorite aspects of all of it.
Yeah.
But take that as you will.
No, you have to, in this industry, you have to have other people's best interests at heart. And then it just works out. I've seen it happen time and time again.
Well, and as a real estate agent, it's just as important for your personal health, your personal health of your finances, all of that stuff to be in good working order if you're wanting to serve your clients effectively and efficiently. It's like a wild, you don't necessarily think about it all the time. But it's super important just to be aware of, I think.
Yeah. I like that you've done flips too. You have some experience in construction. You own real estate. You have a rental property. Like all those are like you're doing what you're preaching, right? Which I think goes a long way too. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking when you're working with an agent that doesn't own their house or
What's the stat on that? Didn't somebody say that it's like 40 or 60% of agents don't own a house? I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of newer agents, and everybody starts somewhere. Like when I first started, I had just bought my first house. So I mean, they'll probably be there for a minute. But if there's somebody that like has never bought a house, and they're older, like that would maybe be a little bit alarming. So I like all your beliefs and everything around the industry. I think you guys are gonna do awesome. It's gonna be exciting to look back on this even a year from now and just be like, whoa, like I think you guys are gonna crush it. So how many Pokemon cards do you have?
I'm not going to tell you. He's going to try to collect them above me. And I'm the best Paden because I have all of them.
Yeah, he did this post about he's better because he has more Pokemon cards. I loved Pokemon. I would watch it every day before going to school growing up, but I don't have any Pokemon cards. So,
yeah. And that's why he's a coward.
Yeah, that is.
I'm sorry.
I can't. I'm going to have to go buy some Pokemon cards. Just buy a massive collection and just try and have more.
Just try to come at it from a reasonable thought process. I get it.
Yeah. Any other things you want to add in there before we wrap up?
I love being a real estate agent. I love this industry. The job is incredibly hard, as we both know. But the people that are going to be the most successful at it are going to be the people that enjoy being here. If you're looking to hire a real estate agent,
hire me
naturally. Hire one of us, either. Probably me. But if you're looking to hire a real estate agent, finding somebody that you trust is more important than anything else. And then finding somebody that's really good at their job is the second most important thing. The trust piece of it in real estate is as important as anything else. So take that as you will.
I love it. No, it's going to be cool watching it and watching you. And you're going to start seeing a lot more of the PP podcast. So until next time.
All right. See ya.